The first thing I heard was my sister screaming my name across a crowded charity gala. Every conversation stopped. Champagne glasses froze halfway to lips. A violinist missed a note. Heads turned toward the entrance. And standing 20 feet away from me was my younger sister, Vanessa. The woman who had stolen my husband, taken my inheritance, and convinced half my family that I was the villain. For a moment, neither of us moved. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Honestly, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because 7 years earlier, I would have done anything to see Vanessa lose her perfect composure in public. Back then, she was the golden child. I was the disappointment. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 46 years old, and 7 years ago, my entire life collapsed in less than a month. In 2019, I was happily married to Daniel Bennett. We lived in St. Louis, Missouri. In a beautiful home we'd spent years building together. Or at least I thought we were happy. Then my father died unexpectedly. The funeral was heartbreaking enough. But the reading of the will destroyed everything. Dad owned several commercial properties worth millions. Everyone assumed the estate would be divided equally between Vanessa and me. It wasn't. Dad left 70% to me. The reason was simple. For years, I had managed his finances, helped with his medical appointments, and spent weekends caring for him after Mom passed away. Vanessa rarely visited. The moment the attorney finished reading the will, I saw hatred flash across her face. 3 weeks later, things got worse. I came home early from a business trip. Daniel's car was in the driveway. So was Vanessa's. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then I walked inside and found my husband kissing my sister in my kitchen. I can still remember the coffee mug slipping from my hand, shattering across the floor. Neither of them even looked ashamed. Daniel simply stared at me. Vanessa crossed her arms. And then she said the words that changed everything. Daniel loves me now, Claire. My world stopped spinning. But I had no idea that this betrayal was only the beginning. Because within 6 months, I would lose my marriage, my family, my reputation, and discover a secret my father had taken to his grave. A secret that would eventually bring Vanessa crashing back into my life, begging for help. The weeks after discovering Daniel and Vanessa together felt like living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I expected betrayal from my husband. I never expected it from my entire family. At first, I thought the truth would be obvious. After all, Daniel had cheated. Vanessa had knowingly helped destroy my marriage. Surely everyone would see that. I was wrong. Vanessa moved faster than I did. Before I could even process what had happened, she was already calling relatives, telling her version of the story. According to Vanessa, Daniel and I had been unhappy for years. According to Vanessa, I was controlling, cold, and obsessed with money. According to Vanessa, she and Daniel had simply fallen in love. Somehow, she turned their affair into a tragic love story. And people believed her. Family members stopped returning my calls. Cousins unfriended me on Facebook. An aunt actually told me that I should let them be happy. The divorce became final 8 months later. Daniel moved into a luxury condo downtown. Vanessa moved in with him 2 weeks later. Then came another blow. During the estate settlement, I discovered several important documents were missing from my father's records. Bank statements, property agreements, investment files. Thousands of dollars had quietly disappeared from accounts during the final year of Dad's life. The missing paperwork pointed toward only one person, Vanessa. But proving it was nearly impossible. My attorney warned me that a legal battle could drag on for years. I was emotionally exhausted, financially drained, completely alone. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I walked away. I sold my house, left St. Louis, and moved 3 hours away to a small town near Springfield. Most people thought I was running. Maybe I was. But sometimes survival looks like retreat. The first year was brutal. I cried in grocery store parking lots. I avoided social media. I spent holidays alone. Some mornings I couldn't even recognize the woman staring back at me in the mirror. Then something unexpected happened. Life kept moving. Slowly, I started rebuilding. I opened a bookkeeping and consulting business for small companies. 1 client became 3. 3 became 10. 10 became 30. For the first time in years, I felt useful again. Respected again. Free again. Then, nearly 7 years after losing everything, a phone call arrived on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The caller ID displayed a name I hadn't seen in years. Vanessa. I stared at the screen. My heart immediately started racing. For 7 years, she had never called. Never apologized. Never reached out. Now suddenly she wanted to talk. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. What she said next made the blood drain from my face. Claire, she whispered through tears. I need your help. And for the first time in her life, Vanessa sounded terrified. For several seconds, I said nothing. 7 years. 7 years without a single apology. 7 years of silence. And now Vanessa was crying on the phone. Why are you calling me? I finally asked. The line went quiet. Then I heard her take a shaky breath. Because you're the only person left. Those words hit harder than I expected. Vanessa had always been surrounded by people. Friends, family, admirers. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new phone numbers. Hearing her say she had nobody left felt impossible. What happened? I asked. Another long pause. Then she told me. 3 years earlier, Daniel had convinced her to invest heavily in a commercial real estate project. He promised huge returns. He promised financial freedom. He promised it was a sure thing. Vanessa trusted him. After all, she had chosen him over everyone else. Including me. The project failed. Badly. Millions of dollars disappeared. Loans piled up. Investors started asking questions. Then lawsuits followed. And suddenly the perfect life Vanessa had spent years showing off online began falling apart. What about Daniel? I asked. The silence that followed told me everything. He left. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. The same man who abandoned his wife. The moment something better appeared had done it again. According to Vanessa, he disappeared 6 months earlier. New city. New girlfriend. New life. Exactly the way he had disappeared from mine. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. He took everything, she whispered. For a moment I remembered standing in my kitchen years ago, listening to her tell me Daniel loved her. Now she sounded broken. Completely broken. I don't know what you want me to do, I said honestly. There's more, she replied. The fear in her voice immediately caught my attention. What more? Then came the sentence that changed everything. The FBI contacted me last week. I sat upright. What? Vanessa started crying again. Apparently investigators were examining financial records connected to the failed project. Several signatures on investment documents appeared suspicious. Very suspicious. Someone had forged paperwork. Someone had moved money through accounts that shouldn't have been touched. And much of the evidence pointed toward Daniel. But there was one problem. Many of those documents carried Vanessa's signature. Whether she knew about the fraud or not, authorities believed she might be involved. The room suddenly felt smaller. Are you saying you're under investigation? Yes. I rubbed my forehead. After everything that had happened, I never imagined hearing these words. Then Vanessa said something even more shocking. I found Dad's missing files. My heart stopped. The files I'd searched for years ago. The files connected to my father's estate. The files that had mysteriously vanished. Long before the inheritance. Long before any of us realized who Daniel Mercer really was. The next morning, I drove to St. Louis. 7 years earlier, I had left the city heartbroken. Now I was returning with questions. Vanessa met me at a small coffee shop. She looked nothing like the confident woman from years ago. The designer clothes were gone. The arrogance was gone. Even her smile had disappeared. Without a word, she slid a thick folder across the table. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were copies of bank records, emails, and private notes written by my father. One note immediately caught my attention. Do not trust Daniel. He is trying to gain access to family assets through Claire. I read it twice. Then 3 times. Dad had figured it out. Months before his death, he had discovered Daniel was secretly pursuing investors, using family connections, and asking questions about the inheritance. The affair with Vanessa hadn't started because of love. It started because Daniel believed she could help him reach the money faster. The realization made me sick. Everything he had done, my marriage, the betrayal, the lies, had been part of a larger plan. Then came the final document. An email proving Daniel had forged financial records and transferred funds through multiple shell companies. The evidence was overwhelming. Vanessa looked at me with tears in her eyes. I destroyed our family for a man who was using both of us. For the first time in years, I believed her. And together, we made a decision. We would hand every document to federal investigators. Because Daniel Mercer had spent years running from consequences. His luck was finally about to run out. 6 months later, everything changed. Federal investigators used the documents Vanessa and I provided to build their case. The evidence uncovered years of fraud, forged signatures, and stolen investment funds. Daniel Mercer was arrested while attempting to leave the country. The news spread quickly across Missouri. For years, people had believed Daniel was a successful businessman. Now they learned the truth. He had built his success on lies. During the trial, several former investors testified about the money they had lost. The evidence was overwhelming. Daniel was convicted and sentenced to prison. When the verdict was announced, I expected to feel victorious. I didn't. I felt relieved. There was a difference. As for Vanessa, she cooperated fully with investigators. Although she faced financial penalties, authorities confirmed she had not planned the fraud. For the first time in years, we began rebuilding our relationship. Not as best friends. Not overnight. Trust takes time. But slowly, we became sisters again. One Sunday afternoon, we visited our parents' graves together. Standing there, we both cried for the years we had lost. I wish I could change it, Vanessa whispered. I know, I replied. And for the first time, that was enough. A year later, my business was thriving. I had a peaceful home, loyal friends, and something I once thought I'd never have again, contentment. Looking back, I realized something important. The greatest revenge wasn't exposing Daniel. It wasn't watching him lose everything. It was refusing to let his betrayal destroy the rest of my life. The people who hurt you may change your story for a chapter, but they don't get to write the ending. Only you do. And my ending wasn't about revenge. It was about healing, forgiveness, and finally finding peace.